Navigating a new relationship with his girl best friend in his bedroom at 2 a.m. TLDR at the end. I, 40F, am in a new relationship, and my BF, 45M, did tell me that he and his GBF, girl best friend, F40s, briefly dated a few years ago and slept together once, but realized they're better as friends. I felt a bit wary, but I'm also aware that I have friendships with men I have been with, and there's truly nothing there, for me, at least. I do believe him when he says it's totally platonic for him, though he has mentioned his most recent ex. They were together for 1.5+ years, wasn't the GBF's biggest fan, but to each their own. GBF sounded cool and he mentioned we have a lot of things in common, she and I, and he could see us becoming good friends. Exes have requested some distance between GBF and BF as it made them uncomfortable, but I decided not to worry about it until I met her and judged for myself. The other night I was spending the night at my BF's when I woke up to a woman who had entered the apartment and came straight to his bedroom doorway and just fucking stared at us in his bed. When I first heard the sound of the door unlocking and a light click on, I was sleeping and thought it was part of a dream until I realized it was real. He was sleeping super soundly and I was trying to wake him up by patting his arm, rubbing his chest, touching his face, talking to him, and I was frantic. BC, I don't know who she was, how she got in, and why she was there at 2 a.m. She just stared for a few minutes and he was having a hard time waking up. By the time I finally was able to wake him up, she was gone. The only thing she said was, "Sorry for disturbing you." Understandably, it takes him a few minutes to get his bearings. I describe the woman, he states who it sounds like, then shows me a pic. It's GBF. He checked his calls and texts, and the last time she texted him was the day before. A few minutes later she was blowing up his phone and he finally answered, and she said something about being scared and needing to talk to him. He told her off and ended the call, but she continued to call and text for the next hour and was pissed that he wouldn't come out and talk with her. She has a BF, and she obviously knows about me. BF and I live about 1.5 hours apart, so I was there for about an hour after this happened. When I told him I was going home, I wanted to make sure I was okay to drive and I was just stunned and trying to process this and I didn't know where she was and I was scared to run into her. He reached out to me the next day in the late morning and early afternoon, not sure if I wanted to talk to him or not. As it turns out, she let herself in, for the first time ever, having not called or texted first, to tell him she's in love with him and wanted him to choose her over me. He was shocked but laid his boundaries out, and she said that she can't be just friends with him so their friendship is over. He's had a lot of loss in his life, and she was a big part of his support system over the last few years, so he's grieving the loss of the friendship. BC, this is fresh, and I don't know how to process any of this. He really does seem blindsided and never imagined she would do that. Yeah, I watch a lot of true crime. I'm the one who locked the door before we went to bed, so I know it was locked, but at first I thought maybe a neighbor entered the wrong apartment. And then while she stared for a few minutes while I was panicking and trying to wake me up, I was like, oh fuck, she might be a crazy ex and she might hurt us. I have never thought about what I'd do in this situation. BC, I never in a million years thought I'd be in it, but holy fuck kkkk. His apartment is keyless entry, she knew the access codes. BC, they were good friends for several years and he travels internationally for work a few weeks at a time and needed someone to water plants, grab mail. He's planning on connecting with apartment management to change both of the codes. I don't know what I think or need, but it's very clear that he doesn't understand how truly unhinged and traumatic this was for me. Validate me? Give me perspective? What? The actual fuck. TLDR boyfriend's girl best friend let herself into his apartment at 2 a.m., scaring the shit out of me. BC, I didn't know who she was or why she was there. He says it's been platonic for 2 years, but she came to tell him she's in love with him. They briefly dated a few years ago. I know most people would break up immediately, but those were her actions and he never expected it. BC, she hasn't done that before. This is the first red flag I've seen from him. How do I process this and possibly move forward? Do I end it or do we pump the brakes? I'm aware that most people are the rule, not the exception, but I feel like he's being honest and I don't know if I'm being too trusting. Edit. Clarifications. Okay, the biggest glaring clarification is that I labeled her GBF. BC, it's easier to say than explain the whole thing. She is not among those few that he considers his best friends, but she was the closest female friend he had. I think we are both still shocked that it happened. She was a safe friend for him up until that happened, and I'm sure it's a mindfuck to come to terms with how big of a deal it is. He took her at her word that they were just friends. He plans on talking to his therapist and his friends, and I'm talking to mine too. He broke things off with her BC of incompatibilities. I don't know if he named them all to her, but for him, it has been absolutely only platonic since they decided to become just friends after. Exes asked for distance between them, is really that 118 relationship, or so. I don't have his previous relationships memorized. BC their previous, but it sounds like that GF had a very small circle of friends. BC she was difficult to get along with, and I think he just chalked it up to that GF's insecurities and put distance with GBF. Along those lines, I can see how he went there. BC whenever I start a new employment opportunity it always feels like the coworkers, men and women, think we're in competition. I lay the groundwork with, hey, I'm not in competition with anyone here. We're a valuable team together. BC we all have our own approaches. There are some women that are hard to get along with and they know it, and I broke off a friendship a few months ago. BC she was like that. It happens. 5. Keyless entry is keyless. There's a pad at the front door to enter a number, and then another pad on his front door to enter another. They're friends. I have access to my friends' places. He travels internationally for work and has plants. I wasn't pressed. I trusted his trust in her, and she broke it. 6. I truly don't believe they're FWB. It's not his style, he's not interested in her, whatever. Maybe she was drunk and hyped up on Hallmark movies, I don't know, and it was still scary AF for me. She was still wearing her coat, completely zipped up, and her shoes. If you're banging someone on the reg, you're not coming to the bedroom with a coat and shoes still on. 7. I don't think he's gotten to the point of realizing that she might have snuck in other times. I told him I feel violated and he should too. He's a science guy, so he's very methodical and rational, and I think he's so shocked and pissed by what she did, he literally doesn't know what to say. 8. He's changing the codes. I said that already, in the novel.